Coming up next on NewsDepth, we meet some famous astronauts in this week's No Ohio. And we hear from the UK's first COVID vaccine recipient. These musicians found a way to play through the pandemic. Plus, we've got some festive feel-good stories for you. NewsDepth is now. Roll up those sleeves. The COVID vaccine is ready. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Jackson. Thanks for joining us. The Food and Drug Administration has given emergency approval to the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine for use against the coronavirus. They made that decision last Friday. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also approved use of the vaccine this past weekend. And on Sunday, the first rounds of the vaccine were shipped across the country. It's the light at the end of a very, very dark year. Britt Conway was at the Michigan plant where newly made vaccines began their journey to all 50 states.
Friday night when we got the news over our phones, I actually got a tear in my eye because this is so exciting. This is history being made, and right here in Kalamazoo County.
History, hope, and cheers as the first rounds of the COVID-19 vaccine were loaded onto trucks Sunday morning in Michigan.
I couldn't be more confident in the distribution of the vaccine. We've worked incredibly hard over many months doing test shipments, improving our shippers, making sure that they can maintain temperature during the entire journey. And we're very happy with the solution.
Pfizer has been coordinating the distribution of its vaccine with all 50 states. And by Monday, a total of 189 boxes worth will have been delivered. That's about 2.9 million doses to begin vaccinating people, mainly healthcare workers and long-term care facility residents and staff.
Seeing these trucks go by, it just gave you a thrill to know that we are helping the world.
The U.S. plans to distribute 14 million doses of the vaccine by the end of the year, with tens of millions more going out at the beginning of 2021.
The expectation is in the next several months that there'll be enough supply of vaccines to vaccinate 100 million Americans.
Medical experts stress getting enough people immunized to create herd immunity will take time, and this is not a quick fix, but a light at the end of the tunnel. People are still encouraged to keep practicing social distancing, wearing masks, and frequently washing their hands. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Thanks, Britt. You saw that last video clip? That was in Columbus, our state's capital, where medical workers were already receiving the vaccine this Monday. Well, since the federal agencies have green-lighted the vaccine, it's up to the states to decide how best to distribute it. Governor Mike DeWine estimated the state would receive 9,750 Pfizer vaccines for specific regional hospitals and more than 88,000 vaccines for Walgreens and CVS pharmacies. Estimate means to give a best educated guess at a number. Next week, he estimates we'll receive another 123,000 doses from Pfizer. Plus, more than 200,000 vaccines from Moderna will be sent to hospitals and health departments around Ohio. Even more vaccine doses are expected to follow, and we're going to need them. After all, there are more than 11 million folks living in Ohio. Feel crowded? Okay, so once the vaccines get into the right hands, who gets first dibs on a shot? We asked you last week what factors you thought should determine who lines up first to get a vaccine. Let's see what you had to say, then I'll let you in on Ohio's plan. Time to open up that inbox. Melanie from Corpus Christi Academy in Lyndhurst wrote, I think doctors and nurses should get the vaccine first because they get exposed to COVID every single day. However, as soon as all the doctors and nurses get the vaccine, elderly people and newborn babies should get it. Elderly people and babies are not exposed to COVID every day, but they should get the vaccine soon. Here's a good one from Rian at Sidney Finn Elementary in Medina. First, all of the doctors, nurses, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics should get the vaccine because we need them to keep our world safe and healthy. Older people should get it next because their immune system is not strong enough to fight the virus sometimes. Next, people who have underlying health issues because if they get infected, that could complicate their recovery. Next, all of the healthy young people should get vaccinated because their immune system is the strongest. Sydney from Groveport Elementary in Columbus wrote, I think that healthcare workers should get vaccinated before anyone else because then they don't have to worry about them getting COVID. Plus, they can pay more attention to their patients. Here's another from Mariana at New Bremen School in New Bremen. In my opinion, I think that nurses from nursing homes should get the vaccine first. I think they should get the vaccine first so none of the elderly get sick. Another reason why I think the nurses should get it first is so that if they get COVID-19, they don't give it to the other workers, so then they can't work. And if they can't work, then the elderly won't have anyone to take care of them. That is why I think the nurses should get the vaccine first. Finally, Thomas from Barberton Middle School in Barberton wrote, "The factor of who should get the vaccine first depends on who they are. If you are a doctor who sees people every day, you should get it first so you are not at risk of getting COVID from a patient. Also, some teachers should get it so they don't give it to their students so the kids are safe." Really nice job. Good support for your answers this week, everybody. Now, for Ohio, the first phase of vaccines will go to healthcare workers who were involved in caring for people with COVID, like so many of your letters said. Emergency responders are included, residents and staff at nursing homes or assisted living facilities as well, and a few other vulnerable groups. This is pretty similar to the rollout that the United Kingdom had last week. Their very first recipient of the vaccine, 90-year-old Margaret Keenan. After being given the shot, she left the hospital to a round of applause. She said everyone should get the vaccine.
I'd say go for it. Go for it because it's free and it's the best thing that's ever happened at the moment. So please go for it. That's all I say, you know. If I can do it, well, so can you.
Important to note, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said that children may not end up getting the vaccine at first. This is mainly because the vaccine trials have so far only included adult participants. But the recommendation for children to be vaccinated might happen later in the rollout. The CDC also says children are more likely to have mild or no symptoms if they do catch COVID. Now, we've given you a lot of information about the COVID vaccine, but I'm sure there's still more that you'd like to understand. So we want to know, what questions do you have about the vaccine? You can use our inbox form to submit those questions or email them to us at newsdepth@ideastream.org. We will do our very best to get you some answers in our upcoming episodes. Now, last week, we asked you to vote whether or not you would participate in a vaccine trial, and it was a tight race. 51% of you said, no, you would not. Well, you're really split on this issue, aren't you? Now, I wonder if you would have the same division over, say, flying to outer space. Ohio has a long history of raising up astronauts. Gabriel Kramer has the scoop in this week's No Ohio. Gabe?
Ohioans know how to reach for the stars. Literally. There have been more than a handful who have headed into space with careers as astronauts. Let me introduce you to a few who really stand out. No doubt you've heard of Neil Armstrong. He's got that famous quote, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Originally from Wapakoneta, Ohio, Armstrong attended Purdue University, where he studied aeronautical engineering before being called to serve in the Korean War. As a pilot for the Navy, he flew 78 missions. If that's no prep to fly into space, I don't know what is. Upon returning and completing his education at Purdue, Armstrong joined the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which eventually would become NASA. It was here where Armstrong made history flying the Apollo 11 and becoming the first man to walk on the moon in 1969.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Although monumental, Armstrong was not the only Ohio-born astronaut making an impact during this time. John Glenn, born in Cambridge, Ohio, beat him to space. Glenn was the first American to orbit the Earth in 1962. In 1959, Glenn was selected to join the first group of astronauts nicknamed the Mercury 7.
I look at it, if I use the talents and capabilities I happen to have been given to the best of my ability, I think there is a power greater than I am that will certainly see that I am taken care of if I do my part of the bargain.
He had already spent plenty of time in the air, having served in both World War II and the Korean War. Glenn made history for America with his orbit mission and continued serving the country as an Ohio senator for 25 years. However, he didn't stop there. He made history once more in 1998 when he did one more space flight. What was so impressive this go? Well, Glenn was 77 years old at the time, making him the oldest person to fly into space.
And liftoff of Discovery with a crew of 6 astronaut heroes and 1 American legend.
Now, Armstrong and Glenn are probably familiar names, but how about Judy Resnick? Ever heard of her? Resnick was from Akron and was accepted into the astronaut program in 1978, along with 5 other women. During her time, she became the second female astronaut to travel to space and was well regarded for being a pioneer. Her first flight to space was aboard the Discovery in 1984. She was an expert in operating the shuttle's robotic arm. Unfortunately, Resnick's next mission was aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986. The Challenger exploded not long after takeoff, killing her and 6 other crewmates. At a memorial service for Resnick, John Glenn said, "So as we reflect on Judy's life and Challenger's last voyage in the days and weeks ahead, let's never forget the last words that came from that spacecraft. Go at throttle up." Those are far more than a courageous epitaph. They are America's history. They are America's destiny, and they will turn tragedy into triumph once again. Resnick's work and accomplishments helped revolutionize the industry and pave the way forward for women. For example, one of the toughest astronauts out there, Sunita Williams. Williams was born in Euclid, Ohio. She joined NASA as an astronaut in 1998. Already having retired from a career as a Navy captain, she served as a flight engineer during her time as an astronaut. Williams has been commended for endurance as an astronaut and has a record to back it up, with 2 missions under her belt. She has spent time on the International Space Station and set the record for female astronauts with the most spacewalk, totaling more than 50 hours. Despite already accomplishing so much as an astronaut, Williams continues to strive for more as she trains for more space flights and is expected to spend even more time aboard the International Space Station.
You know, being in microgravity and flying around in space is priceless, and I think we're cherishing every moment we have of it.
As of 2020, she has her eyes set on being the first female to walk on the moon. So as you can see, Ohio is home to some super accomplished astronauts, and there are plenty more I could talk about. Will you be one of them one day?
Thanks, Gabriel. Plenty more space missions are being planned. In fact, right now, the largest space launch pad is being built in Florida. It might even end up being the largest in the world. Reporter Dan Billow got a look that few have seen of the brand new complex.
They won't give you an up-close look. It's hard even to find good photos of the newly rising Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Quietly, Amazon's Jeff Bezos is building the pad for his New Glenn rocket.
That's the largest launch pad in the world by far. And the neat thing about it is if you just go down to the beach, it's right there.
This new launch pad is a lot closer to the most popular public beaches than the pads for the Atlas V or the Falcon 9 or even back in the day the space shuttles. And the New Glenn rocket is a huge one even as rockets go. A size comparison shows the 2 versions of the New Glenn are far taller than the Space Shuttle or SpaceX Falcon 9 and almost as tall as the Saturn V, but not as big as the proposed NASA SLS and SpaceX Starship. The New Glenn will be built in a nearby factory on Merritt Island, which also houses possibly the world's largest launch control center. There's more.
The tallest water tower in the world, probably the tallest lightning poles in the world, and a huge launch pad.
The rocket's job will be to launch big satellites, but don't rule out launches of astronaut ships to faraway destinations, all in front of a spellbound audience.
Thanks, Dan. Now, how about another record breaker? Mount Everest got a few feet taller this week. No, I'm kidding. Mountains don't grow, but the agreed upon measurement of the mountain's height did change. Let's head to Nepal. Namaste. Nepal is a small country squeezed between China and India. The mountainous spot contains 8 of the top 10 highest peaks in the world. More than 29 million people live in the least developed country. Many work as farmers or merchants, and they practice Hinduism. The country is known for its Sherpas. A Sherpa is a special mountain climber who guides tourists on climbs. Especially popular for visitors is Mount Everest, the world's tallest mountain, which sits on the border of Nepal and China. Now, there's been a years-long dispute between Nepal and China on how tall the mountain actually is. Last week, officials from both countries announced the peak stands at roughly, get this, 29,032 feet. It's a couple of feet higher than the previously recognized height. All right, one more record breaker. The largest menorah in the world will light up in New York City this Hanukkah. A menorah is a sacred candle holder with space for 9 candles that's used in Jewish worship. People of the Jewish faith will be celebrating Hanukkah from the 10th of December through the 18th. Their Festival of Lights commemorates the night Jews reclaimed a holy temple in Jerusalem. The people lit a menorah with a one-day supply of oil, but it ended up lasting for 8 days. The 36-foot-tall menorah was put up last week by the Lubavitch Youth Organization in its traditional place, Midtown Manhattan, with bright LED lights running the length of all 8 branches. Of course, more holidays will be celebrated with lights this year. Some African Americans will celebrate Kwanzaa, that's from December 26th to January 1st. They celebrate African American culture and heritage by lighting candles on a menorah. Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists already celebrated their festival of Diwali in November. It commemorates the triumph of good over evil, light over darkness. And for people of the Christian faith, Christmas on December 25th is a time to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, who they call the light of the world. A major Christmas tradition is seeing Santa, though. Let him know it's on your wish list. And of course, the Jolly Saint can speak every language, and that includes American Sign Language. Ryan Cummings has that story from Michigan.
It's a new way to celebrate Christmas thanks to COVID.
Oh my goodness, what is it, Rory?
Deaf and hard of hearing services in Kentwood put it all together. Saturday's event at Little Pine Island Camp welcomed families with children who are deaf or hard of hearing.
A lot of families look forward to going to see Santa during the holiday season and get some photos and have those family memories, but those who are deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing miss out on those opportunities because Santa typically cannot communicate with them.
You get a dice game. That's awesome. Let me see.
Families were invited to the drive-through experience with the man from the North Pole.
Are you 2 now? Yay! Do you want to see Santa?
The coronavirus is really affecting everything and everyone this year, including how we celebrate Christmas. This annual event now in its 11th year. This time, though, organizers had to switch to less contact, but the same amount of cheer.
Usually we have it inside with all the children together, socializing, doing crafts, meeting Santa. But this year, because of COVID, we did it as a drive-through.
Parents drive station to station, getting refreshments and toys.
And then you're 9. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
The final stop is where they get to greet the big guy, who is just like them.
Our Santa, he is deaf himself. He knows sign language, and we have interpreters here as well, so that way anyone who comes gets the chance to interact with Santa and have a fun holiday memory.
Thank you, Ryan. No matter what holiday you celebrate, I bet music's a big part of it. Due to the pandemic, many school plays and concerts, though, have been canceled. But reporter James Groh has details about new masks that are letting musicians pick up their instruments once more. James?
This song, performed by Marquette University band students, wouldn't be possible during the pandemic if it weren't for a slight modification to something that we've all become very familiar with in the past year.
There's actually like a slit in the middle, and when I flex my face, it opens, so I'm able to insert the mouthpiece into there and blow like normal.
It's a mask made for those who specifically play wind instruments. This way they can still rehearse without spreading germs.
It's kind of different because you want to take a big deep breath in and out, and it's kind of hard with the mask. It kind of forms like a suction on your face.
It's one of the few modifications the university took to ensure the band could keep playing this year. Others include covers at the end of horns and absorbing pads to catch any condensation that might drip off the instrument.
So normally the wind ensemble is 55 to 65 people. This semester we're rehearsing in groups of 5, 6, 8 in these sort of chamber ensembles that allows the activity to keep going.
Instead of an audience, the band performs for cameras live streaming the concert. Instead of large orchestras, it's small group performances. But the most important thing remains the same, and it's thanks to these masks. The music is still beautiful. In Milwaukee, James Groh.
Thank you, James. Uplifting to see people being able to come together even during these difficult times. Now, our A+ award winners are also uplifting. Our NewsDepth A+ goes to Avon High School's Unified Club. The students worked on a great art piece for the Special Olympics Ohio Art of Inclusion campaign. Their artwork was featured on Cleveland Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield's cleats when he took to the field recently against the Tennessee Titans. Mayfield is part of the NFL's My Cause, My Cleats program, and he's been a strong supporter of Special Olympics Ohio. Avon High School Sports Director Eric Frombach said the school started their unified club 3 years ago to help special education students and regular students form meaningful relationships and to have some fun, of course. They've participated in sports like flag football and basketball. But because of COVID-19, the ability to play sports this year has been extremely limited. So when there was an opportunity to participate in this art campaign, Frombach said they embraced it. The students painted a puzzle piece representing how individually each student is different, but that together they can create a masterpiece. They added the quote, "Diversity is a fact, inclusion is an act," because it represents the unified movement. The lines in the background, those were made by students who took the wheels off their wheelchairs and used them as paintbrushes. And that's pretty darn creative. Art teacher Maria Petrulis, who led the art project, said every student had a hand in the art piece and it felt like, her words now, a big party. Once the art piece was done, it was cool to see how proud the students were of making it. So this A+ is for all the Avon High School students involved in this art piece and who play hard for the Unified Club. Our hats go off to the counselors, teachers, and staff who helped these students shine. You all show there is true acceptance at Avon High School. Well, the student in this next story is also up to some pretty good work. When the 10-year-old Virginia boy's life was saved by his helmet in a near-fatal ATV accident, inspiration struck him to help others. Now, working with his dad, he's trying to make sure other kids are protected just like he was. Lindsay Ward has this story.
At Goad's Body Shop in Lexington, bikes and helmets go together like peas and carrots. It was a helmet that helped save 10-year-old Jonathan's life this fall when he crashed his four-wheeler into a tree. Right after his hospital release, Jonathan told his parents he wanted to help other children with safety equipment.
I decided that would be awesome and give them some helmets so even they can protect themselves when they ride.
They were unsure how to find kids who needed helmets, but it all came together when a local toy drive asked if their business would serve as a drop-off point.
It hit me like, well, kids need bicycles, so we bought 4 bicycles and Jonathan bought 4 helmets. JP's Toy Drive is going to distribute them.
I feel like a lot of people were there for me and I want to be there for them.
Despite the accident, med flight, hospital stay, and brain surgery, things could have been much worse.
There's nothing bad that come out of it for us, but so we wanted to turn it around and make it a positive for other people. And he wants to make sure that everybody knows that to wear their helmet, to be safe.
Jonathan's focus now:
helping, caring, and showing love, pretty much.
Love in the shape of a helmet.
Thanks, Lindsay. Now for this week's poll, we want to know, do you wear a helmet when you're riding a bike or an ATV or a scooter? Go online to vote either yes or no. While you're on the NewsDepth webpage, I'm sure you'll also want to check out NewsCat's story for this week. Let's see what she's pawed up in this week's petting zoo. Hey there, cat. Hard at work, I see. Oh, hey, she must have found something. Wow, a rare snowy owl spotted in the city. To find out about this frosty fellow, click the petting zoo button on our website. And thank you, NewsCat. All right, time for one last story. The pandemic has kept lots of families apart, so a student in Montana wanted to encourage his classmates to reconnect through letter writing. Emma Wolfhorst has that story.
Most middle schoolers are spending their afternoons doing homework, but Sacagawea 8th grader Mikey Anderson is also working on his letter writing campaign.
I started it when I found out that I might not get to see my grandparents this holiday season, which would be a first for a long time.
Anderson says he decided to write them a letter.
And I was just thinking about what to write and kind of how to do it. And I was thinking that I've never really asked them for stories when they were a kid. And a lot of kids, especially at my school, probably haven't done that either.
And the campaign took off. Anderson's mom says as of today, they have 600 students planning to write letters, but they actually need more community members to sign up.
There's been a lot of interest, and I think a lot of kids are really excited to write to not only their family, which is what we originally thought, but there's a lot of people wanting to write to just community members. I wanted to give people like a feeling like they did something positive during the pandemic and helped out others.
Anderson says the main goal is just to establish community connections.
We would like it to have a lot of people in our campaign, but you don't need to be part of it. Just writing a letter is all that's really needed. Just establish that connection.
Anderson hopes people will continue writing letters even once the holiday season is over.
You talk to your grandparents on the phone and stuff, and it becomes more normal. But just getting a letter and like having that new friendship is, I think, really beneficial for both people, and I think that's made the kids really want to do it.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks for writing that. You know, we at NewsDepth love a good letter anyway, so for this week we've got another write-in. Besides sending us your COVID vaccine questions, we want you to write a letter to yourself in the future describing 2020. What has your experience been like? What lessons have you learned? Certainly has been a year for the history books, hasn't it? And we are headed into winter break, so you'll have plenty of time to send us those letters, because the next episode of NewsDepth won't post online until January 14th of 2021. Wow. But now it's time to say there are plenty of ways to stay in touch. Write to us with any of those letters. We're at 1375 Euclid Avenue, downtown Cleveland, Ohio. Our zip code is 44115. You can email us at newsdepth@ideastream.org, or you can tweet us, and our handle is @NewsDepthOhio. Thank you so much for joining us all year, really. I'm Rick Jackson. Have a great holiday. We look forward to being back with you next year.
NewsDepth is made possible by a grant from the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation.